what is a detached head? Well, let's first go back to our structure. So we have our master branch with the commits, and we have our other branch also with the commits. The latest commit, so the commit 3 in the master branch and commit 4 in the other branch, is our head if we check out the master or the other branch. Now, you saw a bit earlier in the course that we can not only check out specific branches, but we can also check out specific commits. And each commit in Git is identified via a unique ID. So let's say we check out our second commit here. What happens then? As I said, checking out a branch means we check out the specific branch, so we refer to our branch and indirectly refer to the latest commit because this branch contains commits and also the latest commit. Now we suddenly refer to a commit, and commit 2 right here is maybe in this branch we are currently working in, but we didn't check out the commit in this branch, right? Because this commit also exists in our master branch, for example. So how would Git now know which specific commit in which branch we're referring to? In the end, this and that is a so-called detached head. So the head is no longer in a specific branch and they're the last commit. We just checked out a commit, and this commit basically is in the middle of nowhere, so it's not related to a specific branch. Now, sounds a bit confusing at this stage, but let's go back to the project and let's see what this looks like in practice. So in here, let's again check our branches. We have our master branch and we have this second branch. Now in the master branch, we have this second commit here ending with 222.888. Let's keep this in mind. And let's now check out our second branch maybe. And here we log it. And as we can see, the second commit has again the same ending. So it has the same ID, but it's a unique ID. So if we would now take this ID of this commit and now check it out like this, then, well, we get some additional information. We used this earlier, but we skipped this. Now it's time to dive a bit deeper what Git is telling us here. We now switch to a specific commit, as can be seen right here, and now we are in this detached head state. So this simply means this commit is not part of a specific branch. And I told you this in theory already, but if we now again go down here and now use git branch to see all our branches, you see that we have this detached head and we are not in any of the branches at the moment. So this confirms again that we are just working with a commit here, not with a commit in a specific branch. Now you have plenty of options to work with detached heads. You can explore these, you can also add changes and commit these, but committing changes right here will be covered a bit later. At this stage of the course, I just want to make sure that you know that this is no problem. You can check out specific commits and explore these and see what you did there. But if you want to go back to the initial state, then you simply have to enter git checkout and now refer to a specific branch. In this case, this could be our second branch once again, right here. And now if we use git branch again, you see we are back in our second branch. So this is the head and the detached head. So this is what the head and the detached head is all about. As I said, we'll dive a bit deeper into the detached head towards the end of this module. In the next lecture though, I want to show you some new commands when it comes to working with branches though. Up to this point, we learned basic Git commands, which actually work with all Git versions, so also older versions. As many tools, Git is currently improved, and because of this, we see some additional commands from time to time. These commands are still in experimental stage, but can already be used today. So if you're using Git 2.23 or a later version, you can check your version with git -- version like this. So if this is 2.23 or later, then you can use some new commands. From time to time in this course, we'll have lectures on these new commands. Now it's time for the first of these lectures. And in this lecture, I want to refer to new commands related to branches. We learned that we can create branches with the git branch command and then the branch name. And afterwards, we can then check out this new branch or also existing branches. Or we can simply use git checkout -b and then the branch name to create and check out a new branch. Nothing wrong about this, you can use these commands. But with Git 2.23 we have the so-called switch command implemented. The switch command allows you to do, well, switch branches and create new branches. Now you would say, why would I want to have a new command in here? Well, the idea basically is that checkout can be used for commits and for branches, so it can be confusing, especially for beginners. So with switch and other commands we'll explore later, we have a better differentiation between those different purposes. Switch, for example, is related to working with branches. It's very explicit here. For example, we can switch to our third branch in here with the git switch command. If we do so, we see we switch to our third branch. Besides that, we can also create new branches. Here we also have a nice shortcut, which is git switch -c. And now we can create, for example, our fourth branch to stay as creative as we were before. If you do so, you see we switch to a new branch, the fourth branch. So as you can see, the functionality is exactly the same that we saw with our branch command and the checkout command. These are just some newer commands, well, to keep Git evolving. With that, we learned a lot about commits and branches. What we didn't learn so far is how we can reverse our changes, because sometimes things go wrong, either in the working directory, in the staging area, or in an actual commit, or in a branch. And for all these cases, we have specific commands how to fix such problems. This is what we will explore as next steps in this course. How can we delete data from our project, from our version management? Now, data here simply means commits, branches, files, and so on. Specifically, in the next lectures, we'll have a look at how we can delete files from our working directory. So I'm talking about files which were already part of a previous commit. We'll have a look at how we can get rid of unstaged changes referring to files which were part of a previous commit or of files which were not part of a previous commit. We'll also have a look at how we can undo staged changes. This means changes we added to our index, to our staging area. We'll also have a look at how we can delete one or single commits, and we'll learn how we can delete branches. Now, as you can imagine, these are lots of commands in the end. Therefore, in the next lectures, we'll dive into the practical application of these steps right here, of these operations. And towards the end of this module, you will find a huge summary slide containing all the required commands. So at this point, practical application first. With that, let's get started. I'm again back in our course project. So with a git branch, we can have a look. We have these 4 different branches in here. And if I clean this and run git status, you see everything is all right. We are currently in our 4th branch. Let me first switch back to our master branch, because that's the branch we definitely want to keep. We might get rid of other branches. So we are back in the master branch now. And let's now say we want to delete this file right here, this working with branches.txt file, which is of course part of our previous commit. We can check this with git status right here. We don't have anything to commit at the moment. Now we want to delete a file from the working directory, but at the same time, we have to be aware of the way our staging area handles these files. To check which files are currently part of our staging area, we can simply run git ls -files, like this. And as you can see, we have the same 3 files that we have in our working directory, because the last commit we did contains the same files as our staging area at this stage, if we didn't add additional files to it, or if we didn't apply any changes to existing files, which we also added, of course. But let's say we just added the commit, and now we want to delete the file, then the last commit and the staging area are the same in the end. Now, this is important because if we now delete this file by right-clicking it and pressing delete right here, you see that our working directory, well, doesn't contain this file anymore. But if we now again run our git list files command, you see that this file is still part of our staging area. And that's of course not what we want right here, because we want to delete this file from the working directory. And with that, our next commit should also be without this file. Now, let's run git status once again. And here we also see that we have changes not staged for the commit. We have different options to work with this deleted file right here. This restore option here is covered in a few minutes in the course. It's not about deleting this file from the commit in the end. Therefore, we'll focus on to git add or git remove. Well, git add is something you know already. With git add, you tell Git which files should be tracked and which changes should be tracked therefore and later be commit. So you could run git add right here and now refer to that specific file that you deleted, and with that the changes would be ready for the commit. Alternatively, you can use remove right here, and that's what I want to do now. So we'll use git remove and now refer to the file name, in this case working with branches.txt. As I said, it would also work with git add. Both approaches are totally valid here. You can just choose both in this case. So let's now run this command, and afterwards git status once again. And as you can see, we now have a change which can be committed. We have deleted this file, and if we again run git list files in here, you see that now this file is indeed no longer part of our staging area. What we can do now is, of course, we can now commit this change with git commit-m deleted working with branches file, for example. And with that, we have a new commit and our text file is gone. Let's clear this maybe. So this is how we can delete files from our working directory. As a next step, we'll learn how we can undo unstaged changes.